Zaur, great to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us for our podcast and our video series, The Tipping Point. Um, if I can introduce you very quickly, and I know that you can give us probably a little insight into the organization you work with too, which is Chalhoub Group. But Zaur, and I'm still challenged with your surname. I do apologize. But Shiraliyev, I hope
Yes,
I've got
welcome.
it. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but so good to have you here today. You and we go a long way back, and I certainly appreciate our friendship and our professional interaction. Deep respect to you in terms of the role that you play within Chalhoub. But if you could quickly give us a super snapshot of the Chalhoub Group from an L&D perspective, or just as a group, then I can jump into some juicy questions
okay.
that
Mm.
will feed our audience, no doubt.
Well, Nick, a big thank you for having me today here with you, and it's quite exciting to be able to see you again after a long while and actually connect on very interesting topics. About Chalhoub Group, Chalhoub is a luxury retail company. We distribute the big luxury brands and the houses in the Middle East. We've got over a few hundred of stores across the Middle East, and we also operate multiple e-commerce sites. And learning and development today in Chalhoub Group is about enabling every single employee in our organization in staying relevant and ahead of the game to help us future fit our organization. So as in my role as the head of learning and development, I'm looking after the needs of all the job families, and be it from the functional perspective, be it from behavioral perspective. Special focus, as you know, I pay always to our leadership development, and as well the biggest part of our population is the front line with let's say from the 8,500 of our own employees, 75% of them are frontliners, or inevitably to with the size of with such size, we really need to have a focused and dedicated support to customer service learning and retail learning, and therefore we have dedicated academies across the group in different locations where we serve predominantly the frontline needs, retail needs. So all of that is under my scope and under the learning team's scope. And I hope we're delivering the value that is expected of us today. And I'm very happy to share some of the examples with you.
Great. That's perfect. Thank you. And we look forward to the sharing. Certainly my experience is that you're deeply connected with the L&D function, and I'm excited to get some of your thoughts and ideas about how through the challenging times you've responded to that. And it's interesting, maybe we should start with the concept of the challenging times. So I would like to understand, your perspective or your experience kind of from the pre-COVID to the actual COVID, experience, and now into our new paradigm. However we want to describe that. What has really happened within your function and the people around you at that transition?
Very interesting question, and I could talk for hours about this particular question because it is actually a great example of the evolution of the learning throughout the crisis. So just to give you an insight into how we operate as a business, as I mentioned, we have 75% of our population predominantly focused in the front line. So that is a customer-facing job. That is the shop floor. That is the retail. And retail is one of the top 5 badly hit industries in the world. And when I talk about retail hits, I'm talking about mainly brick and mortar retailing, which was the main model of our business operation. And with that, that means that at a certain period of time, that 75% of your population is idle, fully idle in a lockdown, disconnected from the organization, and is looking for the lifeline to stay close and stay connected. So this is when the L&D has stepped in, and not only as a learning channel or as a learning mediums, but also as an engagement channel to our employees to connect. But before that, what used to happen is we were mainly focusing on the face-to-face learning interventions or interactions, and the fraction and the proportion of the digital learning was very, very minimal. We were almost apprehensive that virtual learning won't work with our population because they like personal touch, face-to-face interaction, and therefore almost pushed and postponed to a certain degree becoming a virtual learning provider. So the COVID did the transformation for us. It actually pushed us to move from 100% face-to-face learning providing model to 100% virtual learning within the span of 2 weeks, where the team almost came together and as a one workforce and put together a huge transition plan on how we're going to convert all the training programs that have been scheduled during those period of time, plus the additional learning content to support the crisis management in a virtual mode and delivery. So we witnessed the transition from zero virtual and 100% face-to-face deliveries to the academies to the total opposite of it. And today, there's a lot of things that actually have become a new normal, as everybody says. So trainings on the Zoom, virtual learning sessions, having built strong internal networks for resources, shared resources. As I shared in one of the conferences I spoke, we've expanded the boundaries for the learners. They can attend any learning, any session, anytime, anywhere, but also we expanded the boundaries for the training team, for the learning team. So today we're able, through the virtual learning, we're able to deliver a session in Saudi Arabia by a trainer who's actually located in Kuwait, for example. We're able to deliver, and that session is produced or co-produced with a trainer who's sitting in Egypt or working from Egypt. So not only we've expanded the boundaries for our employees through the virtual learning, but we've also expanded the boundaries for ourselves, whereas previously we were not even thinking about such a great utilization of the resources and collaboration.
And I have no doubt that you're not alone in that massive shift, but that 2 week turnaround is just hugely pressured, and as you say, everybody's in the same boat. So it's there's a catalyst for change, no doubt, but change is never easy. I'm curious about how that process. What were the challenges? What were the key challenges in that turnaround? And maybe those challenges still exist.
So just to give you an anecdote of one of the consultants, and I'll never forget that email. The title of the email said, "You do not have to delay your virtual training." So I opened the email and I read how a consultant was offering conversion of 1 day virtual training within a record time, as they described, for $20,000 per day of training, $20,000, and with 4 weeks of turnaround time. So that was just a very, I would say, not an appealing proposal, in an interesting way to say, but we didn't have the luxury of $20,000. Neither we had the luxury of 4 weeks. The very first day when our stores were closed in Kuwait, one of the retail leaders has connected with me, asking what can we do to leverage on this close down or lockdown times to engage with the team and improve their capabilities and enhance their skills. So we didn't have 4 weeks luxury. We only had perhaps even less than 2 weeks in general, but at the same time we had to launch the bite-sized learnings and to keep people afloat through our digital learning app. So what we did as a team, we put together a 3C strategy, and our 3C strategy was about content, about communication, and about collaboration. So the content, it was important for us to identify what really matters now for our employees. What are the things that would matter now that they need to learn now? And later on, we would focus on what matters when they come back. and what matters in the long run. But we had to almost follow the cycle of the lockdown and the business to see what kind of content would appeal. So, for example, when we started with the lockdown, we immediately noticed that the biggest importance for the teams are the skills to learn how to work remotely. So leading remotely was another subject that our leaders lacked. So we had deployed brand new 2 workshops, which is leading remotely and working remotely, to enable our colleagues to be more effective in what they do through remote working. And then, for example, when we looked at the end of the lockdown, when the stores started opening up, we started focusing on back to stores program, where we started introducing the protocols that have been defined by each country on how to safely return. Obviously, the safety of our customers is paramount. So we had to deploy programs which are training our employees how to create the safety for the employees themselves and the customers as well, how to deliver their services in an environment which promotes health and prevents the infection and contamination and so on. And so basically all the learnings that we have offered have been mimicking or accompanying the business in this journey. Now, the collaboration part of the strategy was all about leveraging on an external and internal expertise in curating, in sourcing content and the solutions, toolkits that would really help our employees. We are not experts of every single subject, although we are in L&D and everybody thinks that way. We really needed to leverage on our colleagues from marketing, from e-commerce, from supply chain and everywhere, so to pull in their expertise and share it with the teams. Last but not the least is the communication, because just because we have the learning offer, it doesn't mean people know about it, and it doesn't mean people will onboard on it unless you relentlessly communicate. And we used our leaders as our communication ambassadors. We leveraged on our CEO as our communication ambassador. He's one of the biggest ambassadors of the learning. So he's been very, very actively promoting the importance of learning during this time. And we actually, to share with you some facts that I just pulled before the session today, we have managed to deliver 10,000 instructor-led learning hours within those 3 months of the lockdown. 3,800 participants trained within the 3-month period. 3,800 participants. So that's a huge number. But it all came from the.
Just curious on that number. What do you think that would have been pre the new paradigm, pre-virtual? How do those numbers stack up against?
Well, how these numbers stack up? If I pull my calculator, if we are able to accommodate 200 learners participants per session, that is, excuse my math, but that's 190, I would say, training sessions. 190 training sessions, and if it had to be delivered from one academy only, or 3 academies, it would have been the third of that number. So that's back-to-back trainings, back-to-back all the time. And
so you've times the impact by 3 by going virtual. If we fair?
Yeah. Multiplied, because we were able to accommodate larger groups. We were able to have multiple sessions. We were able to have sessions in different geographies and reaching out to different people. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this question as well, we were able to remove the barriers for the trainers as well. So all of a sudden we realized we don't have 3 trainers in UAE anymore, for example, or 4 trainers in UAE anymore. We have 10 trainers across the group. That is how much we can offer. Yeah.
Wow. So it's really opened up a very big area for you. And I hear how you say that there's been a lot of kind of response to the subtle shifts and changes during the new paradigm. I'm also curious about kind of now we're in the new paradigm.
Yeah.
And you might be looking slightly longer term. Yes, you're going to have to respond to the challenges. But what is some of the longer term processes, programs, approaches that you're now using that can be the same or different from they were before, but I'm sort of adapted.
Yeah. So, well, a few things. I mean, if I can speak about few HR-related changes in our organization, a very prominent change that we have encountered as an organization is introduction of the flexible working policies. And when I say flexible working, it's actually working remotely. So, or a flexible workplace policy, as we call it. So today, we have empowered our employees, obviously in alignment with their management, decide where they're going to work from. It can be their home or it can be from the offices. So, and this resonated really well with the employees as well as with the leadership, because we have witnessed that when you have a committed workforce, it doesn't really matter where they work from, as long as they're committed and you've communicated clear objectives and you've committed clear expectations and you're aligned. So translated into the learning perspective, with the flexible working comes flexible learning, right? So we realize that the virtual learning is here to stay. Although we also realize that it may not be valid for all the subjects or all the sessions or all the topics, therefore we had a very careful assessment of what is going to go back to what it was before the COVID and what is going to stay following the COVID. So today, some of the behavioral programs and some of the retail-related programs, we're still happily keeping it in the virtual mode of delivery and delivering it as we did during the COVID. Whereas certain sessions where you really want to expose employees to those dynamics and to physical presence and the engagement, particularly in the leadership level, we're going back, obviously sticking to the very careful health and safety measurements. We're going back to the classroom mode of delivery in the academies, and we receive very positive feedback. And this is something that, this is one of the things that we discovered during the COVID as well, that people started craving for human interaction, for human connections, and valuing a presence of a peer to think together, to work together, to learn from. And I think from that perspective, yes, there is a lot of things that will change, but there's a lot of things that people still would like to keep as it was in the past. But as with everything, the balance is the best, and it has to have the purpose and the why are we doing this, and what is the objective behind the change. Then you have a more meaningful picture. Now, what we're also looking at, reassessing our space, our learning space. So whereas, for example, if I give you've been to our lovely academy in UAE, and you know we already have state-of-the-art facilities, but we realize that we perhaps may not need 4 classrooms anymore, and one of the classrooms will be refurbished into virtual broadcasting studios, where we can actually have the fully equipped studios where we can actually deliver the virtual or televised or broadcasted sessions and talks and speeches and so on.
So maybe next time we can do it at your place then, this one.
Yes, why not? Yes, why not? Yeah, my pleasure.
Brilliant. So I mean, I'm going to generalize a little bit here from what I heard, and tell me if I'm wrong. Is that to some degree there is potentially a segmenting of the approach to different parts of your business, whereas the leadership element, and I am generalizing here. I know there'll be nuances within that, but the leadership element perhaps is going coming back to slightly more of a face-to-face, whereas the people on the front line and those type of roles will maintain more of a virtual presence of virtual interaction.
Let me paraphrase or rephrase it a little bit. The sessions that we would I'd rather focus on the nature of the session and what are the outcomes that we'd like to achieve. So just because, let's say, it's a frontline focused program, it does not mean it will stay in virtual learning. On the contrary, with the frontline, especially at the very early stages of their career, it is important to expose them to, let's say, specific role plays or scenario-based learnings where they are exposed to certain customer behaviors, they're handling certain handling of a complaint or presenting a certain product, and you cannot really do it to a certain degree of validity using the virtual learning. So it is still important to have certain kind of learnings in the classroom. So rather than the job family, I think it would go more about the nature and the objective of the courses. And when things cannot be compensated by any other means, then they will definitely look into bringing them back to the classroom.
Yeah.
But what we've done as well, we've actually, and this is, I would say, one of the biggest legacies we will have following this project. We worked on this project for a while now, but the appetite that I've just shared with you in numbers to learning kind of accelerated our project management for the deployment of Chalhoub University. So on June 4th this year, we launched our Chalhoub University, which puts the learner at the heart of everything. So we actually call our learners explorers because we really encourage the curiosity as a mindset and exploratory behaviors and craving for learning and discovery. And we surround our explorers with 360 learning. So what do we mean by 360 learning? We have provided various channels and types of resources at Chalhoub University to get to the expected outcome. So if you want to improve your communication skills, for example, you can easily read a certain article on communication skills or undertake an e-learning at Chalhoub University or register for a virtual learning session or a face-to-face session on how to improve your communication. Or you can actually improve your communication just by starting your self-discovery and undertaking an assessment on certain aspects of communication and then build your own journey. So Chalhoub University is live now, and at this stage it's only for our internal employees, and we have managed to create, curate, and publish a lot of content, again, from different types of learning. It can be reading, reading, watching, listening, and so on.
Wow, that's a huge thing then that I'm sure is not new, but it's something that you've really driven forward, and now you're adapting the approach and the style of learning that operates within the university space. Great.
Yeah, the project, we started the project last year, but we obviously didn't have much of previous learning as we did during the COVID. So especially with the virtual learning and the way how people process certain things. So what really helped us is the lessons learned that we've taken during the COVID, and that actually accelerated the deployment of the university.
Yeah. It's incredible how COVID has shifted the L&D approach. But actually what I find also interesting is the fact that people have been receptive to change. They've seen that there was no other option, I guess, to some degree. And that has assisted you, I'm sure, and your team to drive through those adaptations and those differences to create, continued impact, which I'm sure you've experienced. Great. So you've talked about university there. You and I know that coaching culture has been for a long time an integral part of the Chalhoub Group. And for me, and I've said this to you before, and I've got 17 years experience of working with organizations in the region around coaching and approaching the coaching culture and developing coaching culture within the organizations. And Chalhoub is absolutely a forefront of that. You 7 or 8 years ago now, you committed to this journey, and you've been on it every single year in terms of a number of different approaches. Now, I know there's continued adaptation, but I've seen absolute commitment from your organization. I'd be interested to know, why, as an organization, are you committed to coaching culture? Because there are companies out there sort of dipping their toe a little bit, and we're getting a lot of positive questions about it. But as an organization that has gone through it or continues to develop and expand it, what do you think people or organizations need to know about going down that road?
I think you witnessed my opening speech in multiple sessions of many years of the Coaching for Excellence program, where we successfully partnered, and it still remains to be one of the jewels in the learning crown of our organization. The higher you go, the lonelier it gets. And why coaching? Because it makes business sense. Why coaching? Because it helps your leaders to have an assisted introspection, a reflection, whereas at times either people don't have the guts to give you that feedback, or you don't have, or sometimes the leader's ego gets in the way to hear the signals, be it verbal or situational or physical even. So what coaching really does is, or the coach does, he or she partners with you in helping you understand yourself better, and seeing how you can be a better yourself at the workplace or in your life. I can't talk about perhaps the benefits of coaching as much as you could, but what I'm trying to say, I see that even in a real business context. So we get such a strong positive feedback from the participants of this coaching program to a level that for the next year, I'm really planning, as I shared with you a little bit before this program as well, to actually almost industrialize coaching in our organization, to bring it to every single leader. So every single leader having a coaching opportunity to find out what is an obstacle in my performance. So how can I be a better version of myself? But at the same time, it's a give and take. So part of our future internal coaching framework is about holding every leader accountable for giving back to his direct reports specific hours of coaching per year as minimum expected performance standard. So what we're taking it slightly radically now for the next year, and I will be very happy to partner with you on this. But yeah, we've seen the benefits of it. We're seeing the benefits of it, and that's why we're aiming to keep the coaching on a very high level of our list of leadership development tools.
Yeah, and Chalhoub has been, as I say, at the forefront of using coaching within the organization. I mean, you've put hundreds of people through coaching, and have done that at multiple layers of the organization. What do you think, and let's just talk kind of big picture for a moment about that. What has the organization experienced through investing in coaching in general terms? And I know, as you say, you talked about a framework there. So we're not just talking about executive coaching here. We're talking about, lots of different coaching approaches at the end of the day. We're talking a culture shift. What do you think the organization is experiencing in terms of value from that journey?
Well, the biggest value is, I think, and the ultimate goal is you're reaching to high performing teams. So when you have your leader who's a coach, he has a genuine interest in listening, but also guiding to your solutions. And then if you multiply it on the number of the leaders that you have in the organization, the ripple effect of it is incredible. You get better listeners. You get more self-aware leadership cohort. You get leadership that is not only self-aware, but also quite capable of self-regulation and very open to collaborating with others as well. And those are the behaviors that are observed by the team members of these leaders. And inevitably, every leader through the behavior sets subculture or certain examples within that team. And when you, through the coaching and when you see that transformation, you obviously see the impact on the teams. And if every single team goes through that transformation, imagine the global impact on the organization.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And Zaur, as we close up our conversation today, which I could go a lot longer on this.
Thank you.
I know you've got a huge amount of knowledge and experience, which I would love to be able to share with the audience. But let's just drop it into just perhaps one final thing. I'm really curious, during this massive period of change, what have you learned as a head of group L&D? You know, what's your kind of big takeaway from this?
Oh, wow. So many. You know, if I have to narrow it down to one, is that I don't know everything. And as a leader, I'm not supposed to know everything. So I think, and my advice to all my peers and all the leaders is to be very straightforward with the teams and have the courage to say, I don't know. Because I never experienced this before. So it's okay to not know, as long as you have the interest and passion to find out. And then you're also allowing your teams not to know, which is very important. And the second biggest thing that I learned is it's important also to, you know, even with the team management, it's important to separate what is crisis and what is not crisis. Mm. And not to attend both with the same rigor and stress levels and everything. So because everything happened at the same time, people had difficulty in filtering through what is crisis, what is not crisis. And once the crisis is kind of over, it's important to start reflecting and changing and moderating the approach as well. Mm-hmm. So otherwise, it can lead to the long-term fatigues and burnouts in your teams and demotivation, disengagement, and so on. So yeah, these are the two things. One, it's okay not to know things. And the second is define what is crisis and then tackle it accordingly.
Fantastic. Super wise words to finish with. Thank you so much, Zaur. Really appreciate your time today. And look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Nic. It's been a real pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.